In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to import a CAD detail to use inside a Revit project. One thing that's important when you want to import existing CAD geometry is you want to make sure that your line weights get imported correctly so the detail isn't just flat in one line weight. And the way that you can do that is in your Insert tab. If you go down to your Import panel, there's a little drop down arrow here, Import Line Weights. When I select that down arrow, it brings in a dialog box that on the left hand side gives me all of AutoCAD's 255 colors, and then on the right hand side I can select a Revit line weight to it. And then I can go ahead and save that, and I could go out and save it as my standard import AutoCAD line weight to Revit. That's what it'll default to, or I can give it its own name. And then that is stored in my Revit installation, so every time I import a CAD file, it'll bring in those line weights. So now once we understand, how we can apply those line weights, next thing we have to do is create a view. So I'm going to go to my View tab. I'm going to create a new drafting view, and I'm just going to call it Detail 101. Obviously, you want to call it something that makes sense so in your project browser you understand what you're looking at. Then you want to set the scale of the detail. Even though you can adjust the name and the scale afterwards, this is just a wizard that's stepping you through the process. Now I select OK, and that brings up my drafting view. Next thing I want to do is import my CAD detail. So I go to Insert. Now notice that I could link CAD or import CAD. If I link it, it's going to act like an XREF where if the CAD file changes, the detail changes, it will update here. So I'm going to use the link option, and then from there I'm just going to browse out to my detail library, and I'll go into the KHAV details. And then once I pick a detail, and it may already be in this project, I'm just going to pick one. But what I want to point out down here is what's going to happen to the colors. I want to bring them in as black and white just because that's the familiar Revit environment. And it's still going to incorporate my AutoCAD colors to assign line weights. And then I'm just going to say position it center to center. Now if there were some layers that I didn't want to import, I can specify that and only bring in the layers that I want. But I'm just going to go with the default and say all layers and have it detect what the units are going to be. So now I pick open. It's telling me a link already exists. Do you want to reload it and continue? I'll just say yes. So now when I do my zoom all, I can see that it brought in that detail and I have the line weights. This is just a watermark that we have on our details, which is on a layer that can be shut off. But you can see the line weights of the hatch pattern versus the concrete. It took into consideration what my AutoCAD line weights were when it brought in that detail. So now that detail is a drafting view in my project that I can utilize and link my callouts to.